shrinking the size of government, primarily in the areas of regulation, and making state government more transparent. And we feel like this is the cornerstone of economic prosperity for the state of Tennessee. And so we'll be announcing those. Those were voted upon by the Republicans in the House, and it's something that we intend to push forward the next 2 years.
Jeremy Durham.
Well, thank you guys for having us. I appreciate the Chamber doing this. I think it's a great thing that people can just tune in every month and see what's going on with their legislature. My biggest thing when I first walked in was just getting up on the terminology. I've had some great people to learn from, but just had to wrap my head around everything. Just making sure that when I'm voting on things, I know that I'm cutting red tape on small businesses so we can create jobs in Tennessee and thus in Williamson County. Making sure, especially if something has a fiscal note, that that's a good use of taxpayer funds. Even before finance, I think we should still, in other committees, make sure that that's a good use even before it gets there, because they have a very big job to do, and we need to make sure that it's as tailored as possible so they can deal with the very important things. As far as my personal legislation, definitely the most high profile has been the expansion of Medicaid. I think it's extremely important that we don't expand Medicaid in the state, which would pretty much put us back where we were in 2005, when it almost bankrupted our state. I feel like the federal government's not in a position where they can be making this promise, and I don't really think they're gonna come through. And either way, I feel like we have to be responsible as a good conservative state to not raise the national debt for people whose legislators are trying to do the right thing, trying to be fiscally responsible. And it's not just about the state dollars and protecting us. There are fiscally responsible states out there who are doing the right thing, and I don't want to increase the national debt on them. So that is probably the most high-profile piece of legislation that I've been dealing with.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy. Our next guest comments will come from Brad Dunn. Yeah. Getting Matt Argent and Brad Dunn confused. I know they look a lot alike, but Brad is our chamber chairman, and Brad, if you would tell us a little bit about what's going on specifically with the chamber, and then if you've got any questions for our guest, go ahead with that. After Brad makes his comments, we will open it up to the floor for questions from our audience here. And I would like to remind you, this is not a political show. It's a business chamber information show, and we're just trying to air the issues as evenly and as openly as we can. So if you would, you're welcome to ask any questions of these of our guests this morning, but please keep them to issues and try not to make it a political argument if you can. But Brad.
That's always going to make my transition out of this role pretty easy then, as everybody starts calling me Matt. So I am excited to be here on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for being here in person today. And for those who are watching throughout the month, hopefully this will be a very helpful bit of information and a program that you'll find value in, not only as a business owner, but as a resident of the county. Certainly everything that we endeavor to do at the Chamber of Commerce is an economic development activity, one to enhance our business community, which we feel ties directly into quality of life issues. And that's what these guys are working on a daily basis, to make sure that the environment for running a business, running a household, and just about anything else you can do in your daily walk of life is it doesn't have the barriers, and I think that's a value that we share. There are a lot of things that are going on at the Chamber, and many of you, as I see there, are involved in those things, and we've had a couple of monthly meetings here this year that we've had great attendance, I'd say record attendance at. So the response from members and the community has been great to this unified chamber. Now the real work begins. I would say having a program like this, which is a continuation, points to our commitment to sort of keeping the DNA of the chambers that came together. We did create something new, but we did so kind of on the shoulders of giants, and as some of those cliches may go, but the truth is we certainly did. And so as we move forward into this year, we are trying to go forward with very open ears and very open minds to hear and to process all the opportunities that are before us. We will pick and choose because you can't do everything all the time, but we do have a good set of priorities. I think next month, hopefully, Matt Largent will be sitting here instead of me, it'll be nice to kind of maybe let him take the saddle for a while in some of the leadership type roles like this, because he has a lot of great ideas. He is very connected with things going on in legislative sessions and through economic development and some of the things that are required there, the public and private partnership opportunities. I know for a fact that he will be able to guide that process extremely well. So as we move forward, just would encourage everybody to stay tuned to this program and to this process so that we can all be better informed.
Right.
Thanks.
Any questions of our guest this morning, Brett?
Well, the last issue that Jeremy mentioned, I would say would be definitely high profile, and I don't know if there's time to sort of get different views for, on maybe even more of the details of what that bill entails, some of the consequences, outcomes, some of the replacement things. Like I said, that's going to touch us all at some point. So I don't know if we have time to spend a little more there or not, but I'd love to.
We do, gentlemen.
Let me just, I guess, do a recap.
Right.
Essentially, as far as Medicaid expansion goes, the Affordable Care Act required that states expand their Medicaid rolls to 133% of the federal poverty level. In states like Tennessee, that would be quite an expansion. In some of the blue states, maybe out west, theirs were already pretty close. But that was what it made us do. Then the Supreme Court ruling came down. That was NFIB versus Sebelius, which said that states had the option whether or not to expand their Medicaid rolls without risk of losing their pre-existing Medicaid funds. So basically, we can choose to do it or not do it. The federal government will pay 100% the first 3 years. Then it goes like 95, 94. It goes down to in 2020 to 90%, and with $16.5 billion of debt, many of us just are $1 trillion of debt. Wow, trillion with a T. Yeah. Many of us just don't really feel like the federal government is in a position to do that. Entitlements are already out of control, and I guess I've already given my spill on this, but that's where it came from. And I guess the biggest argument against is many of us worry that the national debt is already unsustainable. We worry that the federal funds will go away, which will put our state in a bad position. And Tennessee, especially, back in 2005, we had to cut our rolls back because we were risking bankrupting our state, quite frankly. We just don't want to go down that road again. So those are the three main arguments against, I would say.
Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Let me add on to that, because Jeremy and I have spoken already on this. When this comes down, there's what they call the woodworking effect. We have people at the present time that are eligible for TennCare that are not enrolled in TennCare. Either they do not know about it or whatever reason, but they are eligible to be enrolled in TennCare. We're not changing the rules, going up to 138% of poverty or anything of that nature. And Jeremy understands that we've talked about this, that this would not be a Medicare expansion, but there probably will be some people added on to TennCare that are already qualified. They were qualified last year, the year before last. So, we're looking at a number. They don't have the exact number because it is an unknown figure, but probably 28,000 to 60,000 people, somewhere in that neighborhood. Probably 35 to 40,000 will be added on to TennCare, but they are eligible at the present time. It has nothing to do with the Medicare expansion. So when you see people being added on, don't contradict or don't think that we're doing the opposite of what we said, because that is not the case on this particular situation.
If I could, just remember that the woodwork effect, which we cannot control, as Representative Sargent said, does not reflect the 90 to 100 matching formula. That's our regular 65-35 matching formula. So we're already, depending whether you think it's 28,000 or 60,000, we're already going to have a Medicaid expansion either way. So that's already going to be there. We can't control it. The bill that I was talking about is trying to prevent us from going even further than that.
All right, moving on. I know we've got several other subjects that some of you are interested in. Just in case anybody wondered, if anything goes wrong in the Williamson County, just call Diane Giddens. She can fix it. And we couldn't do this without her this morning. Thank you, Diane, for getting our audio straightened out. But she can literally fix anything. So. If our audience would start making their way toward the podium for their next question, I'm going to follow up a little bit on the Medicare, Medicaid with a question of my own. But The federal sequester that is scheduled to kick in on March 1st is appears to be a fairly significant, have a fairly significant impact on the state of Tennessee. And I'm not clear from what I've read if it's on the state government finances or just on the employment. I noticed it's predicted that it might cost as many as 20 or 30,000 jobs in the state. Is there anything you all can do or that we can do to mitigate some of the effects of that? And how does that affect the state government?
Okay. Bottom line, what it will do is you'll see it in 3 areas. Oak Ridge, which has a large number of federal employees. You're not going to see it probably right here in Williamson County, Davidson. You're really going to see the difference is Oak Ridge, Clarksville with Fort Campbell, and down in Tullahoma in that area with Arnold Research Air Force Base down there. Those are our 3 main federal facilities that we have. So when you see the cuts, that's where the unemployment will take place and things of that nature. We do not have a direct say-so at all in that. And what cuts will be made at those 3 major installations, we do not know. But when you see the unemployment numbers that are coming out of those, I'm not saying it's not coming out of other areas, but that will be 90% or 80% of all the cuts. You may see things in the, we have a couple of fish hatcheries that are federal. You may see something there. They're spread throughout the state. They're up basically in East Tennessee, but the 3 major ones is where 80% of all our cuts are going to come in. And really, we have no control whatsoever on that.
Okay, so it's not going to affect state revenues directly?
A very small amount, like the fish hatcheries and things of that nature. And it does affect us directly because if you look at Fort Campbell, the economic impact of laying off 5,000 people, Oak Ridge, when you're looking at the economic impact over there at Tullahoma, that area, it does have effect because if you lay off 28,000 people, that's 28,000 people without salaries, and that's 28,000 people not buying goods and services which pay sales tax dollars on. So, it has that trickle-down effect. So, yes, it will have an effect, but you're going to see it more in those 3 major areas than you are, say, like in Sumner County or something of that nature. And we have people here that work at Fort Campbell, so you're going to see it, but not like you would in that particular metropolitan area.
All right, thanks for helping me understand that. I know some of you in the audience are here because of some particular issue, and I would encourage you to step up to the mic and ask your questions or make a statement if you want to. Now, I've got a few questions on my mind, but I'd rather not do all the questioning this morning. So.
I see Bethany Lay out there with Columbia State, so I have to say something. I've always been talking about Columbia State for years. As you know, Columbia State was not Columbia State was number 6 on the list to build. They took the top 4 and then they added a project, but we're still working with the governor. All of us are working with the administration on trying to get Columbia State funded for this year. We have to do 2. We'd have to do Vol State, that's number 5, and Columbia State's number 6. That's a total of about $63 million. So to fund those projects, on a capital note is going to be about a $6.9 million fiscal note to it. So the governor and we are looking at places, all depends what the increased revenues look like. But so Columbia State is still on the front burner for all of us, and it's just a matter of time and see what how the money looks at the next 60 to 90 days.
Great. Any follow up there? Let's go back to Brad. Brad, I know you've got some other things that you feel like are impacting the business community. Mm-hmm. What else do you see as an issue?
Just sort of a tie-in statement at first. I had a opportunity last week to be at a lunch where Carl Dean, mayor of Nashville, spoke. He has his 3 priorities, economic development, education, and safety. He spent a lot of time on the education piece, and as I sat there and thought about some of the statistics that I'm familiar with relative to Williamson County, how do you sort of take the best and make it better sort of was coming to mind. Our challenges with education are different maybe from some of our neighbors in surrounding counties. Jack, particularly, I know that you have a bill, High Performing Flexibility Act. I don't know if that's something that might address our ability to continue expanding what we do here, and if you want to speak to that, maybe.
Sure, be happy to. And
Thanks.
let me start by saying it's a joint effort on the part of all four of us. You phrased it very well, Brad, by pointing out that Tennessee is a very diverse state. Here in Williamson County, we have Williamson County Schools, we have Franklin Special School District, both of which are among the top performing in the state and rank very high nationally in terms of their effectiveness and what great school systems they are. I have 3 kids in Williamson County Schools, and Glenn and Charles's kids went to Williamson County Schools, and one of these days Jeremy's going to be a daddy, and I'm sure his will too. Our job or our goal is to try to help our friends and our colleagues in the General Assembly when they're addressing school districts that are not performing well, that are failing, whether they be in Memphis City, whether they be in some of the rural parts of the state where they're having real funding issues and just not meeting the standards that we would like to see as a state. And so the High Performing Schools Flexibility Act did come to us from the school board here in Williamson County. And what it would do is exempt Williamson County from some of the overly burdensome red tape, regulation, accountability type of issues that, quite frankly, they're meeting and surpassing time and time again. But at the same time, it's our responsibility as a state and as a General Assembly to hold school districts accountable, especially those that are failing. So we're kind of juggling here, trying to say we want to do everything we can to help with accountability issues and performance issues in some of those failing school districts. But should we be adding more and more bureaucracy and more red tape and more requirements onto those school districts? And it's not just Williamson County and Franklin Special, it's Anderson County and Blount County, Maryville. There are a number of very high-performing school districts in the state. And so I'm hoping that that bill will pass and provide some relief to those high-performing school districts. And it ties right in with the conversation, which we may or may not get into today, with regards to vouchers and charter schools and things of that nature, which are very sensitive, and we certainly understand. We believe, I think, as a delegation, that those things are appropriate in certain areas of the state, especially in those areas where schools are failing. So the good news is, let me start with the bad news. The bad news is Tennessee is 46th in the nation in public education, 46th in the nation. And if we don't continue to try to work and improve that, we're not going to get anywhere as a state. Despite all the efforts of the chambers and economic community development, if we can't improve our public schools here in Tennessee, we as a state are just not going to progress. So we're having that conversation. The good news is we're having the conversation. We're talking about these different things. But we got to balance. We got to, it's like anything else. We're going to leave those that are doing it right and are succeeding, try to keep some of that burden off of them while focusing our attention on those failing schools.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, just to follow up, I have the companion bill to that, which Glenn and Jeremy are both co-sponsors on, or prime sponsors on, and we look forward. We're picking up momentum from Alcoa, Blount, other school districts that are, their representatives are signing on to the bill and want to see the bill passed. And it will, give our school board and our director of schools, Dr. Looney, a little more latitude and not have to go through some of the red tape that, that he really doesn't need to because of the high-performance schools that we have.
Dave, I'll comment. If you look at Tennessee over the last couple of years, our high school graduation rate is improving. We're in the top 3 in the nation on percent improved, right? Percent improved, not raw numbers. Right. Our 3rd grade, 5th grade reading and math scores are slightly higher. So the reforms that we've implemented in the last couple of years are working. And I think you're going to see this governor and this legislature push on ahead to continue, because if you can't continue to use the same bureaucracy and expect different results, and this is why we're doing the changes that we're doing.
Right. Good.
When I was out campaigning, I always heard that we had different challenges than people did in other parts of the state as it relates to education. And when you have a county like Williamson that does really well, I think there should be some flexibility that's granted. And the bottom line is we don't want, if it's not necessary, to put red tape on teachers and administrators that might take away from classroom time or lesson planning time. So if we need different things, then places like Memphis, we should probably have more flexibility, in my opinion. And I heard that a lot campaigning. So I think that I definitely think it has support in our county, and I'm hoping it'll have support in the General Assembly.
Very good. No concerns from the audience about that, I see. Jim? We've got a guest making his way forward, Mr. Jim Kennedy.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Jim.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you all doing today?
Good.
Good deal. Well, as this is a chamber event, let me give you a little background to my chamber association. It was a privilege for me to serve a 3-year term on the Cool Springs Chamber representing small business. It was a privilege for me to serve as one of the 9 board members representing the 3 chambers, along with our president, Brad Dunn, as the task force. And then to work with Dave Crouch, Brad Dunn, and 7 others last August as we attempted to fit 44 nominees into 36 board positions on the 1W1C. At our final session, no elected official was going to be elected from Brentwood, where Jim Kennedy Sales and Leasing has a business. So after a very lengthy discussion, the only way to have a Brentwood elected official was if I removed my nomination in favor of Brentwood's vice mayor. We needed a little balance. I was happy to oblige. So during all these years and many meetings at lots of different locations for the chamber, Jim Kennedy Sales and Leasing paid the per diem. Thank you, Jim Kennedy Sales and Leasing. So last month, as I left the podium, I heard you, Dave, say that you didn't know how elected officials would do the job for such a low amount of money, and that you would not. So, question to you, gentlemen. I understand all of you have good paying day jobs. So, when you were meeting with your committees about running for elected office, were the per diem a major consideration in seeking office?
Thank you, Jim. Who would like to
I
address?
don't think that the pay would be an incentive, especially for someone who lives in Williamson County. I mean, there's some economically depressed areas in our state where that might be the case, but I don't think anyone in Williamson would probably run. I mean, personally, I give my per diems to charity because you get taxed on them anyway, and that's kind of the best way to do it. But I don't think any of us ran for that reason. I think I can speak for all of us.
Okay. So to remind folks, put the glasses on so I can see you better, Brad.
No need.
To remind folks, after several Middle Tennessee lawmakers promised in last fall's Republican primary not to take the $173 per day per diem to cover their expenses, a bill brought by Senator Hale, Republican of Gallatin, said would cut $66 from payments owed to local lawmakers, in acknowledgement that lawmakers who live near Nashville usually drive home each night. However, we have a delay. Senator Bill Ketchum noted that lawmakers have been known to pocket the money despite not spending the night in hotels. He cited cases of lawmakers sharing lodging or sleeping in offices, and he put forward an amendment that that would require lawmakers to submit records of where they spend the night. They asked Senator Hale to hold the bill for a week while they work on it. So I understand you mentioned there, Charles, that they're working on it. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it went through one of the subcommittees last week. As far as I know, is that correct, Glenn? It went through the subcommittee last week. It will be in full committee this week. Now, this is the House version, not the Senate. So the House bill went through sub, go through full committee, and probably the week after that, be on the House floor.
And Senator Jackson, can you give us an update on
Johnson, yes. The Senate bill went to, has been rolled to March 12th in the Senate State and Local Government Committee. May Beavers has a similar bill. It's not a similar bill. It's a resolution to have TASER look at the issue of expense reimbursement and how we do that. And it's coming back before the committee on March 12th. So Ken Yeager, the chairman of the committee, asked that the bill be rolled till March 12th, not Senator Ketron. So Senator Ketron's a co-sponsor of the bill. He fully supports it, as do I. But the chairman asked that both bills come back before the committee on March 12th.
Okay.
All right, Jim.
Section 5.
Jim, or can we move on to another subject now?
I know we are, but I just
Okay.
want to say this. But Section 5 says, this act shall take effect November 4th, 2014. And so I would say, why wouldn't we move it to November the 4th, 2013? After all, the payroll tax took effect immediately. Do you think you could take that under consideration?
I don't have a problem making it effective on the passage of the bill.
Okay.
The problem, and I'm going to give back my hotel myself, but the problem is by law, by state law, no legislature may affect their pay. So that's why it has to be the next General Assembly. In other words, the 108th cannot increase our pay. We cannot change per diem. We cannot decrease, increase any part of pay. It's state law. So thus the 2014 date.
And for the same reasons that, like in the
Could
federal.
Charles Sargent, he's willing to do it right away.
We would have to change another part of code to
Could
do
we
that.
do that?
I don't think that's wise, Jim, and I tell you why, because I don't think it's prudent for, and I don't oppose pay increases for legislatures. I just don't think that the 108th or any General Assembly should increase their pay. It should always be for the next General Assembly. You follow me?
Okay.
Okay.
People need to understand what they're running for, what that job entails, what the compensation is. Plus, if you look at the federal Constitution, it says that the legislature cannot change the pay of the judges during their term in office. I mean, there's good policy reasons why that it needs a reset every 2 years.
All right.
Last month, Williamson County small business lost Ed Moody, a World War II veteran whom Marsha Blackburn described on the floor of the House as Mr. Franklin, a high honor for a small businessman. Would you gentlemen honor Ed Moody representing small business in the House and in the Senate?
We've actually already passed a
heard-
resolution. All 4 of us were sponsors, and I'm just working on getting it framed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also, I would like to request, gentlemen, to have an Ed Moody Small Business Day declared for Williamson County.
Well, that would be the county
That
to
would
do
be the
that
county.
for Williamson County.
Okay, that's good. Small business needs representation.
Jim, we've got several
One last
other
thing, one last
important
thing.
issues
I'm
we
almost
want
there.
to move on to.
Small
Please.
business needs representation. As Governor Phil Bredesen says, small business suffer unfairly high tax rates because they don't have powerful lobbyists to fight for loopholes.
Right.
Bredesen said that because big corporations are able to influence tax policy, they're in their favor, while small businesses can't. And we know this to be a fact in Williamson County. In Bredesen's words, it's all the rest of the poor schmucks who don't enjoy a lobbyist to get their special deal they are paying these very high marginal rates for. Finally, I believe in God I believe in country, and I hope that you will work, as the Rotary words exclaim, service above self. Representing small business in Williamson County, and maybe the per diem will be the recognition of spending taxpayers' hard-earned money responsibly.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And
Thank you.
we appreciate it.
Let me say one thing on the lobbyists. NFIB is one of the largest lobbying associations in the state and in the country. They do have a lobbyist. Mr. Brown is lobbying every day up there for small businesses. I'm a member of the NFIB. I'm a small business member myself. He's up there. Let me assure small businesses, he's up there every day, and he's a very important figure as far as speaker for the small businesses of the state of Tennessee.
I'm a member of small NFIB too. We need more.
Thank you, Jim.
Dave, if I could add one more thing. And Jim, your most effective lobbying is you. Right here. And you can pick up a cell phone, and you can call any of the four of us. And I urge you to do that. We need to hear from you. We want to hear from you. And that is the most effective way. John?
I'm Marcus Stamps. I'm the Executive Director of Davis House Child Advocacy Center, and I'm not here to articulate a position, but I would be interested in both a status and/or an update as to the potential changes in the judicial redistricting. As you may know, we have two centers. We serve the 21st Judicial District. We have a main center here in Franklin, and then we also have one in Hohenwald. As we go forward and we look at making contingency plans as to how judicial redistricting may affect us, I'd like to just know kind of where that stands, if there's any thoughts. I know that there's pros and cons, and as I said, we don't have a particular position. I'd just like to know if there's a status update on that. And I'd also like to say thank you for the support that you give not only to our center and the recognition of our activities, but also to that of all the centers across the state and the work that we do. Thank you.
Dave, I'll be glad to start. Who's spearheading the judicial redistricting conversation is the Lieutenant Governor, Ron Ramsey, who of course is Speaker of the Senate. And the way he approaches it, he, of course, as you know, constitutionally, we're required to redraw our districts every 10 years. The County Commission redistricts every 10 years to make sure that we are representing I've told in a previous show how I went from 254,000 people in my district, the largest district in the history of the state, and I'm now 183,000. And that's important to do, and same with the House districts. Judicial districts are not constitutionally required to be evaluated, redrawn on any regular, ongoing basis. The Lieutenant Governor's position is we haven't looked at it in a number of years, decades, I guess. I don't know how long the current district lines have been in place, but it's been quite a long time. And you can only effectively redistrict just prior to a judicial election, which we will have in 2014. All of our trial court judges will be up, our appellate court judges will be up for retention vote, and so forth. Our DAs, public defenders, all the folks that work in the judicial branch. So if we don't do it in this year, which would be effective for 2014, then the next time will fall right as we're redrawing our district lines on the next 10-year cycle. And it's very unlikely, if not impossible, that we would try to do judicial lines at the same time we're redrawing our districts as we're required to do. So really, if we don't do it now, you're looking at 16 years before you can effectively look at redrawing these lines. And there's no question there is excess capacity. Our four trial court judges here in the 21st Judicial District are extremely overloaded. I think they are currently rated for, I believe, 4.6 judges. There's 4 of them. So they're really, really working hard. They should probably have 5 judges. There are other parts of the state where judges don't have near the caseload. So having said all that, though, it's a very, very complicated thing to do. And quite frankly, I don't know that we will be able to get it done this General Assembly. I'm not saying it won't happen, and I spoke with the Lieutenant Governor about it just last week. and he still believes we should look at it and think about it. He's asked for input from stakeholders across the state. I believe the deadline for that, providing that input, is March 1st. And so we'll continue to have a conversation. Marcus, I think if it happens, we'll certainly sit down and talk to a lot of people. But I think it'd be safe to acknowledge that it's a tough mountain to climb, and especially to get it done in the short amount of time we have remaining in this General Assembly.
I just wanted to throw in, I mentioned a few minutes ago about lobbying, and Marcus, we've been lobbied hard by our judges and our sheriff and our DAs, and that's effective. That's what we need to do. Y'all need to tell us on things like this that affects you. And had a blast Saturday night at the Child Advocacy. Thank you for your labor of love. That's so important at what you do. Thank you.
The reason that many people think it's needed is because some of the districts are disproportionate, but we also understand that there are things like drug courts where people are enrolled across county lines, and that's something that we are mindful of. So I don't know whether or not it'll happen, but those conversations are going on, and we do remember things like what I just said when we're talking about it.
Along the lines of child advocacy, one of the issues that I particularly wanted to hear about this morning was the changes going on at the Department of Children's Services, the actions that the governor's taken there, and what you all see is the progress, or the lack of progress thereof there, and the effect on the children here in the state. Are you all, is that getting to the state legislature at any level at this point?
It is. I'll just say briefly, most people know that Commissioner Kate O'Day did resign. Commissioner Jim Henry, who has been over the Department of Intellectual Development Disabilities, DIDS is the acronym. He is interim commissioner over DCS. There's been a lot of press, a lot of media about the Department of Children's Services. So, probably one of the most critical things we do as a state is taking care of those kids. And we've had some issues, and we're taking a hard look at it. We got to get it right.
This has always been a problem, not just under Commissioner O'Day, but it's been a problem. It's a problem throughout the country with children's services. I see Judge Guffey sitting out there. She understands it. Probably she could speak to it probably better than all four of us put together. We are having a meeting. We've been trying to set up a meeting with the judge and to see exactly what needs to be done. There are talks of, that department is so large. There's talk about breaking that department up into 2 or 3 areas, those that are in state custody, those that are in foster care, and we need to get this whole thing, but the department is so large, it's hard to get it under one umbrella, I think. So possibly the best thing is going to be, breaking it into 2 departments or 3 departments to get things under control, because sometimes the state doesn't even know what child they have in custody. They all walk around with paper files. A person's out for a week. That child gets lost sometimes. It's just a system that we have to totally revamp, and we're all concerned about it. We are not the expert. We have to go to Judge Guffey and look at all the different things we can do, because they working in it every single day where none of us here work in that juvenile court system as far as that's concerned. And it's something we have to get under control.
Judge Guffey, I'd love to have you step up and offer any suggestions that you might have, any low-hanging fruit that you see out there that they might pick. And
I'm probably in trouble now because I have her up to the mic.
And I can't fix DCS. I'll just say that right up front. I do think that that's a good starting point to simplify the organization. It's blossomed into an enormous organization, and one side doesn't really know what the other side's doing. But I also wonder if, other than budgetary legislation from you all, will there be any other changes statutorily, such as the involvement with the juvenile courts in placement of children, where we don't have that right or authority now? That's one thing that really should be looked at down the road that would require a change in the statute.
My understanding, and please correct me, this is a moving situation now with the commissioner going. My understanding, they are looking at different legislation, even though the bill filing deadline's passed. This will go under the governor's administrative package, and they are looking at several bills to either break this into different departments or have, assistant commissioners underneath do it. This is a work in progress right now. I've seen some of the preliminary paperwork on it. I don't know exactly how it's going to come out, if something will come out this year.
The other glaring problem is the 1-800 number for abuse calls, and I know y'all are very familiar with that. And I hope that there's discussions about allowing your local offices to be able to receive those calls as opposed to just one central number, because a lot of our calls are getting screened out when they go to the 1-800 number, and that's very concerning that we've got children that are in need that aren't receiving any response. So I know that that's something that is being discussed. So
Great. Appreciate your assistance in helping us understand those issues, Judge Cuffey, and your presence here. We've got roughly 10 minutes to go, and I'd like to give you gentlemen the last word this morning. A couple of things that haven't been mentioned that were pretty lively discussions last month were the wine sales in grocery stores. Might like to hear a little bit of an update on that. The guns in trunks, which I'm still trying to understand the pros and cons, or the political balance there. Glenn, I understand you've got an anti-income tax bill out there that's in the works. And the governor has a workers' comp proposal on the table. So any of those things that you can help us with. Jack, if you'd go first and take just...
I'll touch on two very quickly. One on the wine and grocery stores. We are having a hearing today. I sit on the Senate committee that will hear the bill, the Senate State Local Government Committee. I'm actually vice chairman of that committee, and we're having a 2-hour hearing today at 3 o'clock to hear from proponents and opponents of the legislation. That should be effective. If the viewers on TV are interested, that should be video streamed on the website. And by the way, let's maybe stop for just a second and make sure that y'all know that everything we do up there in committee and on the floor is video streamed on the internet. You can watch it live. Go to capitol.tn.gov, and you can watch it live, and then everything we do is archived. So if there's we were awarded, we got an award as the #1 most user-friendly legislative website in the nation. It's a very user-friendly, intuitive website. So you can track by bill. You can click on a bill, and it'll take you straight to when that is being heard in committee. So encourage you to use that. So that'll happen this afternoon. Very quickly on the gun thing, I am carrying that legislation for the lieutenant governor. We passed it in the Senate overwhelmingly. I believe the vote was 28-5, I believe is what it was. And the reason is it's pretty common sense. We had an issue with regards to carry permit holders, and let me just illustrate one degree of absurdity. If I'm dropping my daughter off at school, or my sons, and I'm going through the pickup line or the drop-off line at school, and I'm a carry permit holder, and I have my gun in my car, I am perfectly legal. If I get a call an hour later from my daughter because she left her flute in the back seat and she has to go to band practice and I have to go back to the school, the minute I put my car in park and step outside of my car to run her flute in, I'm breaking the law. We needed to clarify that for handgun carry permit holders, as well as for parking lots and when and where you can. So we won't go into great detail, but I think just the fact it passed the Senate Judiciary Committee 8-0, it was unanimous in committee, and passed 28-5 on the Senate floor. Bipartisan support, I think, shows that it was a pretty common sense thing to do, and I expect a similar result in the House.
Great. Thank you, Senator Johnson.
I just want to remind everybody that the wine and grocery stores legislation, that's not just to put wine in all grocery stores. That's to let you all vote on it. So whether you're for it or against it, we're all sponsors of a bill that would allow you all to vote on it. I think it's popular in Williamson County. It's very likely that it would pass. But we also have to be mindful that there's almost 2/3 of our counties in Tennessee that are still dry. and we might not want to just put wine in their grocery stores. So it will allow the counties to vote on it.
Right. Mr. Kastner?
Dave, the thing that is near and dear to my heart is the question on the income tax. I'm a strong believer that that to tax income not only hurts production, it would keep economic growth out of our state. So as you remember, 10 years ago, we had a very divisive debate on implementing a tax on income. It was defeated, but it was close. And we have had 5 attorney generals in the past 25 years to say it is constitutional. Now, what are they reading to come up with that conclusion? I don't know. So we are going to write a very clearly written statement that will go to the voters in 2014, hopefully forever banning the income tax as an option in the state of Tennessee.
And let me follow up. That's earned income. So
Earned income.
that has nothing to do with the Hall tax. I mean, we get into the splitting the hair, earned income and unearned income. So that has nothing to do with the Hall tax, which is there's 2 bills out there this year to start doing away with the Hall tax at the same time.
One's yours.
And I have one of them, correct.
And Dave, you did mention workers' comp too, and we would be remiss, and perhaps maybe next month we could spend a little time on it, because that is a bill that I'm also carrying on behalf of the governor. It's about a 70-page bill, which for us in state government, it's a fairly comprehensive bill, but we are making some fairly radical changes to our how workers' compensation works, but we'll make it much more pro-business. Tennessee doesn't rate very well whenever it comes to things like unemployment compensation. We passed comprehensive reform last year, and that we're already seeing some fruits of that legislation to get rid of some of the fraud and abuse, to bring down those premiums. Unemployment, workers' compensation, they're both premiums you pay, and you're required to by law, so they're effectively a tax. And if we're going to have those in the state, and we should, they should be run more efficiently. So very excited about what the governor's proposing with regards to workers' compensation. I think over the next few years, we'll begin to see those premiums decline, what you have to pay in to cover your employees. And this all just ties right in to the governor's agenda and our agenda of making Tennessee the best state in the nation to own and operate a business. That is singularly our focus up there 80% of the time.
Very good. You're a gentleman of fewer words this morning. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to ask Matt, Brad.
It's funny the first 8 times, but
I'm going to turn your sign around my way. And next time I'm going to have you on this side, so I'm not got my back to you, Brad. But tell us a little bit more about the focus of the chamber here over the next couple months and what we're going to try to accomplish there.
Yeah. Well, and to sort of pick up on the Matt theme we got going on here, when he came into his new position as the president of the chamber, I think on the first day, he got a phone call from somebody asking him to take a position on a particular legislative issue. A couple of days later, he got another call asking him to take the exact opposite position on the same issue. And what that brought to us, which we knew about, was we need a policy as a chamber so that we can better engage the legislative process. I think historically when we were working with 3 chambers, we were active, but I would say in probably a hyper-local way with what was going on in this environment. So I would just say one of the things that we are looking to do as a chamber, as we put together over the next few months, probably 6 months of a strategic planning process that the new organization really needs to go through, so that we can, redefine and set our identity with the marketplace and our membership. Very specifically, the issue of advocacy and how we engage the legislative process will be a big part of that. With the chamber taking the role as the economic development office now. That's just a requirement. So I don't know if we have time for a particular question on that issue, but I would sort of just throw out for consideration as we go through that process, how we do it, your feedback, the 4 gentlemen here, the way that we can best engage in that conversation will be very important to how effective we are, because I do believe that partnership is something that can help take our organization as the chamber as well as the community kind of to that next level of government effectiveness, efficiency in the marketplace.
Right. Any suggestions, gentlemen?
Well, I'll use one that I've seen work over the last 15 years or so. Sullivan County has a teleconference call every Wednesday. I think it's at 8 o'clock in the morning. I always remember Keith Westmoreland and Jason Munpower. All these people had to go into the conference room, and they all sat around the table, and there were chamber members on the other end. There was 8, 10, or 12 people, and that could be something we could do. If we can find the timing to do that.
Yeah.
And it was just a discussion on the bills coming up that week, what was going on. Their chamber was very active in local bills down here. So, I mean, that's just a suggestion. I always remember Keith and Jason Munpower running out of the office and going into the conference room, and they would always come back and say what's going on with their chamber. So
Right.
that's something. And they have a very active chamber in
Yeah.
Sullivan County in that area.
Well, we thank you very much for y'all's involvement. I mean, you come to the events. I mean, you are a part of the chamber. That's something we're very fortunate to have. So we appreciate your dedication and commitment to that.
Very much appreciate Brad being here this morning, and I'm going to get your name right the last time. And Jack Johnson, Charles Sargent, Glenn Cassida, Jeremy Durham, we appreciate all you do for our county, and appreciate the time you give us here every month. Our next meeting of the Public Affairs Roundtable will be Monday, March 25th. And we would encourage all of you to come back and participate again. We always enjoy comments and input from the audience. And if you're watching this on TV, we would encourage you to be here at the county complex in the County Commission meeting room on West Main to participate and maybe get a little bit closerly involved to this show. Again, my name's Dave Crouch. I appreciate all the input, and we look forward to having you back again next month, March 25th. Thank you very much.